Hi there, welcome to Let's Talk Packaging. Pack Worldwide is excited to bring what we know and add it into your toolkit for flexible packaging needs. I'm Donald Anderson, your host for this inaugural season of the Let's Talk Packaging podcast, and we really can't wait to bring you each week's industry expert and the wisdom that they have for us. This week, John Bartell, PAC's Vice President of Sustainability, and Courtney Boshaw, our Sustainability Coordinator, are here with me as we talk through, you guessed it, sustainability. To start out, I'd love to hear from you both just how you came into your current role, what you're doing now, what do you do now, I guess would be good, and how does it pertain to our distribution reps out there and our customers out there? Why should they know who you are, and how can we use your expertise? There's a lot to unpack there.
That's a long question,
5 questions, but give us some scope on what you do, who you are here at Pack Worldwide.
So my name is John Bartell. I'm the Vice President of Sustainability for Pack Worldwide, and I've been in this role for 2 years. I've been with Pack since 2001 in a number of different roles. Over the years, I have been exposed to many different parts of the organization, from sales to sales management to our international sales, to our marketing, to our communication. So really seeing all aspects of the business. And through that, I've been exposed to a lot, both internally and externally. So internally, our manufacturing processes. So if I go back to the beginning, one of your questions, I think, was how I got involved in sustainability, or why. I would say it started really early. And if you look at our Mexico facility, which back in the day, we just focused on paperboard. That's all we did was paperboard products. Today, as you know, we've expanded to polyethylene products down there. But in the beginning with paperboard, it was really amazing to go down and see their processes. And I think they were on the forefront of the circular economy, because really everything that they were and still are using was coming from recycled content. Sure. A very high content.
They're right next to a pulp plant down there, right? Wasn't that part of our intentional placement?
So the initial intention was closer to the mill, the better, just for efficiencies. And so we were really close to the mill down there. And so when you initially go down to the Mexico facility, you're also touring the mill facility. And so to see these guys at that mill or that plant utilize post-consumer products into the products that we're using. And so our paperboard is almost 100% post-consumer. And then to see the process within our plants where there's very little waste. And if there is waste, that it's recycled. And so from a professional standpoint, that I think was my initial foray into sustainability, really seeing that circular economy from the get-go a long time ago. From a personal standpoint, I think just it's always been ingrained in me. I think from growing up that, let's take a camping trip, for example, leave that trail or that campsite better than you found it.
Yeah, I always told, pack it in, pack it out.
Yeah. So same concept there, right? And so, you're walking through the trail and you see a piece of garbage, don't just walk over it.
Yeah.
Pick it up, right? And so I think from a personal standpoint, it's just always been ingrained in me, and just taking that to the next step with professional life.
Awesome. Courtney, how about you? You are, I think, the least tenured member here at the table, but that doesn't mean
Definitely.
You're brand new.
Yeah, so first of all, my name's Courtney Boshaw. I'm the Sustainability Coordinator. So I actually interned for PAC during college. I believe it was 2014. And it was also under John, who was in marketing at the time. So it was a marketing internship. So I kind of got a taste for PAC, continued with marketing, and I started my current position in 2019, beginning of 2019. I was working for a catering company doing marketing, and just really wanted to switch things up. I had no professional sustainability experience, but it was always something I was passionate about. I took a few classes through college regarding sustainable business, but John really took a chance on me. And so when I started, it was kind of sustainability and packaging 101. I think we went to how many conferences?
We threw Courtney into the fire immediately. I think you started in March 2019. And in the first 6 weeks, we probably traveled 4 times together to multiple conferences across the country, to her first initial trip to Ohio to present in front of the whole sales team in regards to sustainability and what we're doing. Yeah. And so she was a quick study, brings great energy to the group, and great knowledge, and is really my right-hand person, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Or left hand, whatever you want to say.
So driving the conversation, I guess, into sustainability, which clearly is what we want to talk about today. Why is PAC in the last 2 years especially been pushing sustainability as a narrative, not only internally for our employees and for our sales team, but we really want our customers to embrace it as well. What kind of led up to that push? John, I'll give that towards you since you can have that perspective on that.
Sure.
And then why should our distributors focus time, energy, money, and join us with that push?
Yeah, I think PAC has always been sustainably minded in our manufacturing processes, but never really had a focus or a person focusing on it. It was more of, okay, this is happening operational, let's make sure we're doing a good job. But there was never somebody heading it up. And so the push towards sustainability and really making it a focal point happened about a year before I came into this position. And I think a lot of it had to do with environmental manufacturing processes and practices, and then also public perception really of plastic. And so we really wanted to focus on it and get ahead of the curve and be proactive and not reactive. And so creating internal initiatives. So what are we doing from the manufacturing side of things? And then also external, customer facing. What are we doing from the product side of things? And being as transparent as possible with those. And so our goal with both of those, both internal and external, really I'm hoping helps our sales team out in the market to show our customers, our distributors, that PAC really cares about the communities that we live in, the environment that we're part of. Our goal with any of our products is to keep those products out of the environment. So talking to our sales team, talking to our company as a whole, to say, how can we keep this valuable commodity in the circular economy? It doesn't involve it. We don't want it out in the environment. We've all seen it, especially in the last couple of years. Plastic backlash. Plastic has a huge bullseye on its back because you're seeing it out in the environment.
Sure.
You're seeing it in the oceans. You're seeing it on the side of the road. You're seeing it in the whales' bellies. It shouldn't be there. And we want to do a really good job of trying to keep it out of the environment. And so talking to our sales team, trying to educate them on what we're doing with our practices, what we're doing by putting more recycled content into our products.
Why should our distributors put their time, their money, their resources into embracing that along with us? You know, essentially, I think as someone who has personally been out in the field to hear some of these conversations take place live time, there's always the age-old question of, why should I pay more? Why my dollar to save the environment? I guess is what it drills down to.
Because I think your consumers are demanding it. They're demanding that their manufacturers, their distributors, their suppliers are doing something for the environment.
Yeah.
And if they're not, there's somebody probably down the street that is, that might have better service, might have a better product. And so it goes hand in hand with consumer demand, customer demand.
Courtney, John brought up recycled content in mailers, and I know there's been a few things that we've done in the last 18 months to incorporate more recycled content into stock products that we have on hand. What has that progression looked like, and where are we at now?
So we are utilizing our NGR pelletizer machines. So internally, when we manufacture, we take all the scrap from our products that didn't make it into the final product, and we feed it through the pelletizer, and that creates what we would call PIR, or post-industrial resin, and then we are able to put that back into our products, which is super cool. So it's circular just within our plant. And in terms of, I think you should jump in terms of how we've progressed along increasing recycled content and those numbers and stuff.
Yeah, this was a company decision coming from the top in regards to investing in the NGRs. Because prior to that, we had one different brand of pelletizer in one of our facilities. And we would feed scrap into that and then sell those pellets essentially out the back door to somebody that was making them into something else. So, and a pretty low grade product, it would go into a trash can liner, for example, which is not a problem. It's still circular. But we decided with the business growing, there was a better way to utilize our scrap. And that really involved a lot of investment, so millions of dollars in these pelletizers, education from a plant standpoint in regards to, okay, now we have all these different streams of scrap coming through the plant. We can't just put them all in the machine and it comes out magically and it's this great resin pellet. And so teaching the teams how to segregate the streams of scrap so we can best utilize those and keep them back in the circular economy, because our recipes are very complex. And so we can't just have all resin going in and coming out. It's got to be separated that we can put back into our film streams.
Going into our stock products, what are we doing now, or what have we done the last couple of years? I've heard some different numbers thrown around about, this percentage here, this percentage there. Where are we at, and where are we hoping to be in the next?
Yeah. No, great question. We want to be the leader in recycled content in flexible packaging. And I think we've made great strides in the last year. Beginning of 2020, we put together a steering committee for recycled content to look at all of our products. So not just one of our products, look at all of our products across the board, because there's a lot of different departments involved. So you have engineering involved, you have operations involved, you have sourcing involved. Because, hey, if we decide in our rolled bubble film for the pack jacket that we're going to do 42%, well, we have to source that. And so our sourcing department has done a fantastic job dealing with our current suppliers for virgin resin. And now we're asking them to go out and source both PCR, post-consumer resin, and also PIR, in addition to what we're generating internally. And so it's this big picture. Oh, and then the other thing, it's got to be cost effective. It's got to be able to run through our machines efficiently. And so you have all these different variables. And so it's a long journey for us. We're just in the beginning, but I mentioned earlier, we want to be proactive in what we do in regards to sustainability. And we don't have a set goal for next year.
Talking through the life cycle of a poly mailer, we're talking about the circular lifespan of plastics, and obviously that's a hot topic in the news. We've seen numerous major journalism efforts to take apart plastic manufacturing and encourage other types of manufacturing. Looking specifically at the life cycle of a poly mailer, one of our key items that we produce, what does that life cycle look like from manufacturing to the end goal of reimplementation back into a post-use of the poly mailer? What does that look like? Fill us in on what that life cycle looks like ideally. And I'm sure I'll have follow-ups to kind of take that different ways, but ideally, what does that life cycle look like?
So ideally, you manufacture the poly mailer, the customer sells it. Well, let's follow a specific poly mailer. Let's say you order something from a makeup company, and they their products in the poly mailer. The customer opens it. Right now, the options are hopefully the consumer is cutting the paper label off and taking it to a store drop-off location. Poly mailers cannot go through curbside recycling streams. Unfortunately, they are too hard for the MRF material recovery facility to process. And if you see the inside of a MRF, it kind of like connects all the dots. You're like, no wonder recycling is so low and you can't recover anything really. So ideally the customer would take it to a store drop off. From there, the company that hosts these boxes, right now How to Recycle and Nextrex host over 30,000. Yeah, so tons of boxes. They recover all this flexible packaging. They will then clean it, grind it back down into pellets, and then they will sell it as that valuable PCR commodity. And then ideally, manufacturing companies would buy that back and then use it back into their products.
So what about room for improvement as part of that cycle? Obviously, there's a lot of reliance on the consumer to do a lot of the work, right? I know since I started working here for PAC, as I've learned more about sustainability and about plastics recycling, we've started, and for some of my family have started, flexible plastics get put in their own location instead of into the recycling bin. Those plastics go in their own place, and we bring them here at PAC. We have drop-offs at our PAC locations to be able to put in as an employee. But where is room for improvement, and realistically, because it's a long process. It's been a long process already.
So I think there's room for improvement from everyone involved. I think as a manufacturer, it's our responsibility to educate really kind of the world and the marketplace on the fact that it is a valuable commodity that should be not rescued, but it should be reused. But then I also think it is up to the individual brands and companies to educate their consumers. There is quite a bit of education, but it's really confusing. As a consumer, you need to cut off the paper labels, and that's something that a lot of people don't know. So I think education is a huge place for improvement. And I think just encouraging people to know the story of the process, I think that makes it more impactful to know that there's a reason for doing it.
Yeah, so I grew up with the 3 R's recycling, right? Reduce, reuse, recycle, right? The 3 R's. I grew up on that. Obviously, I grew up on the West Coast. I think all 3 of us did here in this room, and so that was part of our science curriculum almost. Was talking about that. PBS would talk about it. Channel 9 for me in the Bay Area where I grew up. And John, you've been proposing a 4th R.
Rethink. Yeah. So at PAC, we try and emphasize the 4 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle, and rethink. And with those 4 R's, it goes back to your question of, hey, if we were looking at doing things better for a poly mailer, for example, what would we do? And so if you look at those 4 R's, the last one is rethink. And so we should really be rethinking everything. But then it ties back into the 3 R's, right? And so poly mailers, reduce, right? So reduction of mill thickness is something that everybody should be looking at. You need your package to protect. It needs to go from A to B. That is the goal of the poly.
Everyone can agree on this.
Everybody should be able to agree on this, right? And so looking at your poly mailer and saying, hey, is there a way that we can make this lighter but still strong enough? And so PAC has some amazing material engineers that work wonders with our mixes and our resins. And is there a way to drop something from a 2.5 mil to a 2.25 and still have it as strong and be able to get from A to B?
And maybe that's one of the ways, going back to my previous question about, why should distributors and customers put time, energy, resource into sustainability? Well, sometimes it's going to save them money.
Right. So if you're reducing the gauge, in theory, those cases or pallets or truckloads, it's going to be lighter.
It's a ripple effect.
Less trucks on the road, less freight, less gas, diesel used, etc. Reduce, reuse. we talk about the second R, or we should be talking about it all the time, right? Single-use plastics are bad. Some of them are necessary. Like if you think of plastics in medical, for example, you're going to use that one time and then you have to throw it away or recycle it. But if we're looking at packaging, for example, we should be looking at dual peel and seal on all of our packaging. So that can be used again, either resent again back in the mail or reused for something else. So think of all of the things that you use on a daily basis. Can you use that again? It's kind of common sense,
sure,
if you think about it. Recycle. Courtney touched on different ways to recycle. Here at PAC, as you had mentioned, Donald, we have e-commerce and grocery bag returns. So our employees, or really the general public, can bring it back to PAC and we'll recycle it for you. The How to Recycle program and the Next Checks program set up well throughout the nation to handle plastic films or flexible films. And that's not just our poly mailers. That is air pillows, that's bubble, that's grocery bags, that's overwraps. Anything that's flexible packaging that's not a mixed material, in theory, should be able to be dropped off there. And the last one goes back to rethink, goes back to education that Courtney was talking about, talking to our customers, talking to consumers about ways to keep this circular, not linear, to keep it out of the environment and back in the business model, because it is a valuable commodity.
Going back to those conversations with customers, one of the things I wanted to ask you about was this conversation that we classify it internally as mailer versus box. And we talk about, why should someone choose a poly mailer or poly bubble mailer versus a corrugated box? And there's a lot of factors in terms of perception of sustainability and perception of recyclability and reality and cost and reality, things like that. But how have those conversations evolved over your career, going from in sales to marketing to sustainability with PAC Worldwide? And how do we see them evolving moving forward?
I think our customers, our distributors, are taking more of a holistic approach now when it comes to packaging. So not just looking at one aspect. And so if you're looking at boxes versus mailers specifically, I believe when we first introduced this concept, it all had to do with shipping and dim weights. Hey, here's a way where it's going to cost you less to ship your product by putting it in a mailer versus a box. That was really the genesis of this all. And then we started looking at it more holistically from an environmental aspect, right? If you're looking at what does it take to create that box versus that mailer from an energy standpoint, from a raw material standpoint, from an electricity standpoint, the carbon footprint of a poly mailer versus a box, you win every time when you're looking at a poly mailer, including your end of life scenario as well. And so that's, in my eyes, how it started. And as people continue to look at, once again, that holistic approach, looking at everything, there will be more options for us. More companies, I think, looking at a mailer going, you know what, we don't need a box. As long as our product is able to be protected, able to get through different seasons. Let's say it's the rainy season or the snowy season where it needs to be water resistant versus a box that might wilt away in the rain or the snow. Continually downsizing. Amazon is a great example. If you look at how they've been criticized in the past about their packaging, the majority of that criticism started with over packaging. You're sending me this huge box with this tiny little memory card in it. What a waste of packaging, waste of freight. And so they're realizing that for a lot of applications, they don't need a box. Another evolution of that is our pack jacket system, right? Right-sizing our packaging, where you can actually get a bubble mailer made in line that will package what you're sending versus using a box.
I want to finish up kind of the conversation here for this episode, talking about just some real life application. What are some real life scenarios that you've seen where it's been, a consultative approach that we've taken, or maybe we had to discover something new for a customer, or maybe by failing, we discovered a new truth that we followed as a company in terms of making sustainability a larger priority. Do you guys have any real life examples that we can share to kind of put a cap on this conversation for today?
Yeah, one example is a customer of ours called ThreadUp. And this was very much a joint effort in regards to how PAC could help them become more sustainable, but it was also driven by them a little bit. And so ThreadUp is a great customer. At the time, they were using our poly bags for certain applications, and then they were also using a paper bag for certain applications. They realized that going poly would actually give them a better footprint than using paper. And so they were kind of bucking the trend where everybody else was like, I'm getting out of plastic. They said, well, hold on, let's look at this. Let's look at the overall, once again, I'll go back to that holistic approach. And they realized that environmentally, plastic was a better solution for them. But one of the issues they were coming into was, and some other companies are facing this as well, is, okay, we have these plastic mailers, they're fully recyclable, but hold on, we have a paper label. And so if that's recycled, it's hard to recycle because you've got a combination of two substrates, paper and a plastic. And so they were happy to adopt the How to Recycle program where they're printing that on their packaging, but it still requires their customer to take an extra step, which is to remove that label. Whether you're trying to pull it off, whether you're trying to cut it off, it's an extra step that they didn't want to make their customers do. And so we worked hand in hand to find a poly label. So that bag and that mailer could all be recycled as one. And so that was a great collaboration, and that's where it started, but it's not done yet. So what they like to do is actually, and their mailer, by the way, has a high percent of recycled content in it, but they want to get more of a circular story. So they want to be able to collect those mailers, have us reprocess them, and then put them back into that mailer film. So it's a great circular story, great sustainability story, a great story of PAC working hand in hand with one of their customers in regards to sustainability.
Yeah, that's terrific. When that conversation developed with them, where did they start in terms of the poly mailers they were using, and where are they now? I guess, how did that end up, besides the label, how did that end up in terms of the change in their packaging use?
So today, all of their mailers that they use are 100% poly.
Well, thank you both for joining us. We are going to continue the conversation on our next episode, more into sustainability and some of the real-world applications that we are taking place as a company to make it more effective for our customers to be able to approach us about that conversation. Thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you both next time. We appreciate it.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
That'll be it for us on episode 2 of Let's Talk Packaging. Thanks again to John and Courtney for filling us in on sustainability as it pertains to flexible packaging. You can find us for questions and comments at pacpack.com or searching for us on any of the normal social media platforms. PAC Worldwide is the premium manufacturer of protective mailers and specialty packaging solutions for the courier, e-commerce, fulfillment, and distribution markets. Thanks for listening with us, and we'll be back soon.